The so-called House of Pain is a structure that is able to spawn on Haddonfield and all Badham preschool maps. Currently, it is in an alright spot balance-wise. However, this building was notoriously known for being incredibly survivor-sided and unfun to deal with as killer during Dead by Daylight's earlier years. But what made it so strong for survivors? And how did we get to where we are today? Well, in this video we're going to be discussing the history of the House of Pain, so without any further ado, let's get right into it. Chapter 2 Halloween was released on the 25th of October 2016, and with that came a new map, Lambkin Lane Haddonfield, which was the first time that players got their hands on the House of Pain. Unlike today, the original structure didn't have preset variations, and instead all of the window spawns were completely based on RNG. For example, sometimes you would get this window vote, this other window vote, and this window vote available, while other times they would be closed and instead you would get this one, and this one. Sometimes you would even get 4 window votes available, as again, the way that the tile got generated was almost completely random. Not only were there more vote spots, but there were also quite a bit more pallets. For example, in the basement there were pallets on both ends of the staircases. This was actually a common trend during that time, which was called double pallets. Whenever a certain tile had 2 spots for pallets to spawn, both of them would get chosen. And this wasn't a bug, the developers intended it to be that way. Apart from the 2 pallets in the basement, there was also one near the car in the garage and one by the fireplace, although this pallet was not very safe at all. Oh, and one more thing, the staircases in the basement weren't solid, but instead were actually see-through, which made mind-gaming these pallets practically impossible. Additionally, there existed a mechanic that players called pallet vacuuming. This described the fact that when a survivor dropped a pallet while sprinting, they would instantly get teleported to the other side of it, which basically gave survivors free distance and resulted in some very unfair stunts. Furthermore, in some Haddonfield variations, the House of Pain would actually spawn twice, and sometimes the two would even be right next to each other. However, if this were to happen, the inside of one of the houses would be completely blocked off, although there would still be a fairly strong filler pallet in the garage. Even with all of these factors in mind, the House of Pain received almost no changes or updates, until exactly 1 year later, when the next Halloween chapter was released. This was partially because most survivors didn't look behind them while getting chased, and instead just mindlessly pre-dropped every pallet they saw. Chapter 6, A Nightmare on Elm Street, was released on the 26th of October 2017 and brought a new realm, Springwood. Back then, instead of 5, there was only one Badham preschool map, which featured a 2-story house similar to the one found in Haddonfield, and a reworked version of the House of Pain. What was different about this one, you may ask? Well, for starters, a part of the house was elevated, which made some window vaults inaccessible from the outside. In addition, the structure looked a bit different compared to the one in Lambkin Lane and had less vaults overall. By then, double pallets had been removed and pallet vacuuming was no longer in the game. The house spawned 1 pallet in the basement, and the only other pallet in the building was either in the garage or in the actual house. Due to the living room being designed slightly different than in the Haddonfield variation, the pallet that spawned inside the house was actually a god pallet. Even though this version of the House of Pain was a little bit different from the one found in Lambkin Lane, it was still very overpowered. More and more survivors were starting to get the hang of looping, and killers would immediately drop chase whenever a survivor even came close to the House of Pain.
I know someone's in that building, but I'm literally not gonna bother. Because it's I don't know how to describe it better. It's infinite, it'll last forever.
It was becoming clear that more changes needed to be implemented. Despite this, it was almost 3 years until any significant updates to it were made. The House of Pain even got added to the 4 new Badham preschool maps during patch 3.1.0 and still didn't receive changes. Thankfully, 2020 rolled around and the developers finally decided that they should do something about it. During late 2020, Dead by Daylight's development team decided that they wanted to upgrade the visual aspects of the game to make them feel more modern. So on the 8th of September 2020, with the introduction of the Blight, Behavior also released The Realm Beyond Part 1. Both Springwood and Yamaoka Estate received visual updates, and as you know, with visual updates also come gameplay updates. The House of Pain was given a new look and design. The pallet spots in the garage and living room were removed, and the only pallet left in the building was the one in the basement. Additionally, the staircases were made to be solid, which increased the mind game potential for killers. Furthermore, breakable walls were added to the structure, and it now had 4 different layouts in which it could spawn. The first one has a breakable wall in the garage and window vaults on opposite ends of the house, while the second variation is almost the same, with the exception of the breakable wall being at the back. The third has window vaults leading to the basement and the outside, and a breakable wall inside of the house, and the fourth one is almost the same except for the breakable wall being at the back. These iterations of the House of Pain are actually the ones that are still in the game to this day. Even though the House of Pain in Badham was receiving significant changes, the one in Haddonfield was left relatively untouched. The only changes made to it throughout the second, third and fourth year of DBD were the removal of a few windows and of the pallets by the fireplace and in the garage. The structure still had some of the strongest vault spots that could easily be chained together, and was one of the main reasons that Lambkin Lane was such a hated map before its eventual rework. On the 2nd of February 2022, Haddonfield and the Strode royalty key offering got disabled for then unknown reasons. The community began to speculate that the developers were possibly working on a visual update of the realm, and these speculations turned out to be correct. Behavior revealed that they were working on a rework of Haddonfield, and players got really excited, especially when they saw the work-in-progress version of the new map. The highly anticipated rework was finally released on the 5th of April 2022 in the PTB for the 5.7.0 patch. The House of Pain got all of its window vaults removed, and in compensation only one not very safe pallet was added to the front portion of the structure. Much like in Badham, the staircases were no longer see-through, but instead were now solid. A fun fact is that in the PTB there was a bug that caused the old-fashioned double pallets to spawn in the basement, making the total pallet count in the building 3 instead of the intended 2. This issue was however fixed for the live update, and since then the House of Pain has remained exactly the same. Well, I guess that's it. We went through the entire history of the House of Pain in Dead by Daylight. I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, then consider liking it and subscribing, since that makes me happy. But anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!